Hey there, my fellow designers and creators. Hope you're all doing well. This is Chetan here from Design Pilot, and I'm back again today with a very new, exciting tutorial. And in this video, I'm going to talk about one of the most fundamental concepts of designing interfaces for mobile apps. I'm going to talk about screen resolutions, screen density, export sizes, responsive design, constraints, and also the difference between Android and iOS when it comes to designing apps. So it's going to be a lot. It's going to be really interesting and informational. So without any further ado, let's get started. All right, guys. So here I am in Figma, and Figma is a UI design tool, which is one of my most favorite UI design tools. I use it all the time for designing interfaces. But before we get started, I quickly wanted to let you guys know that I know I haven't uploaded tutorials for a very long time, and that's because I was quite busy. I was focusing on Instagram, where I was trying to share as much content and share knowledge and help people with the design. So I highly recommend you guys check out my Instagram, and definitely do leave a follow if you guys are interested. All right, so let's come back to Figma. All right, so this is what we have. We're going to cover all this, and I'm going to go step by step and explain every single thing in detail. Now, I suggest you watch this video once or twice, or maybe for the third time if you guys don't understand, because if this is something that's completely new to you, then you might want to watch it multiple times so you guys understand it better and better each time you watch it. All right, so we have a lot of examples over here, and I'm going to show and explain everything from scratch. So let's get started. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to first start off over here. All right, I'm going to move away any of the things that I don't want, which I will explain a little bit later. So let's focus over here. Okay, let's start with Android, and then we can go to iOS. So you always want to start with the smallest screen size available, and that is 360 by 640. So if I go and open up all the settings over here, and I'm going to go ahead and click a new frame. So frame is basically an artboard. Artboard is the term used in Sketch and Adobe XD, but in Figma they call it frame, but it's basically the same thing. So if I come over here, you can see we've got a couple of options for phones, and you can see we've got Android, which is 640 by 360. Now we have Google Pixel 2 and XL. Just ignore that. You don't need to know about that. The only thing you need to focus on is this one, which is on Android. All right. So we have this, and if I click on this artboard that I created, you can see it is 640 by 360. Whenever you're designing, you always have to start with this, and you have to design for this screen size only. Now you can also see that the ratio is 16:9. Now the ratio is not very important, but I'm just putting it out so you guys have an idea of everything that's involved. All right, so basically 16 by 9 is 640 by 360. All right, so let's quickly do some math. So I'm going to take 640 divided by 360, and that gives me 1.77. Now this is same as 16 divided by 9, which is 1.77. So basically this is right. All right, so now let's take a couple of examples and see how it works. So let's take Nokia over here. So I'm taking Nokia 6.1 as an example. We're going to cover all the other ones. All the ones we've got Samsung, we've got Redmi, we've got OnePlus, and we even got Pixel. So basically I'm covering a wide range of devices. All right, so the screen resolution is 1920 by 1080. Right, so this is GSM Arena, and I've picked up the Nokia 6.1 over here, and if you see over here in the resolution, it says 1920 by 1080, 16.9 aspect ratio, and 403 PPI density. I'll explain what PPI density means, but for now we just want to make sure that this is 1920 by 1080. And I've also gone ahead and made a frame or an artboard which is 1920 by 1080, which is super huge. You know, this is the entire size. So basically whatever content is put in this screen space is going to get translated over here, and I'll explain more about that. All right, the next thing we want to take a look at is this part. So even though the resolution is 1080 by 1920, I'm going to bring that down to a number which is 360 by 640. So let's go ahead, and if I go ahead and let me just cancel everything. All right, I'm going to type in 1080 divided by 3, and that gives me 360. If I go and choose 1920, which is the resolution of the height and I divided that by 640, we get 3 again. So basically what's happening is this screen size, which is 640 by 360, is getting multiplied by 3 times to give me this whole thing. And I'm going to give you an example. So if I show you over here, I actually have an example to show you and I'll explain about that next. But this is something that you need to know. So we also have something called as PPI, which is pixels per inch. Now Nokia has a size of 5.5 inches. So basically 5.5 is basically the distance from the top left corner to the bottom right corner. It isn't horizontal or vertical, it is diagonal. This line, this distance is 5.5 inches. So basically when it says 403 pixels per inch, that means if we take 1 inch, all right, so let's go ahead and just say that, assume that this is 1 inch, all right, this is 1 inch of the phone. This whole inch has 403 pixels, all right, this has 403 pixels. That is PPI. So basically, all you need to understand is the more the PPI, which is more pixels per inch, is more the resolution, because if this increases, then this also will increase because I am increasing the number of pixels per inch. All right, so this has 403, and if I go ahead and duplicate this, all right, this has 403. So if I have, let's say, 600 pixels, or I can't change it because of the font I've used, but if this was 600 pixels, then the resolution would automatically increase because there are more number of pixels. All right, now what is this 3x? Why is it 3 and why is it not 2? So there is a small chart that we have over here, and these are different buckets. So now PPI also is DPI, which is dots per inch. PPI is something that iPhones use. DPI is something which Android phones use, but it basically means the same thing, so you can interchangeably use it. All right, so in this case, let's say we have 403 PPI. All right, now if I come over here, 403 PPI falls in this range, which is the extra high density bucket. So anything from 320 to 480 is 3x. So what is this 3x? Basically, any element that is designed at 1x will automatically be scaled up to 3x by the device itself. And I'll show you that in the next example with the actual design. All right, so if you have a phone which has, let's say, 300 DPI, the phone will automatically take the asset, which could be an image, it could be text, it could be a rectangle, it could be a shape, it could be an icon, anything. It's going to multiply it by twice automatically, and it's going to display it so that it doesn't look pixelated on this device. All right, so in this case, since Nokia 6.1 has 403 PPI, all right, it's going to fall under 3x. Okay, so now let's take an example over here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just delete this because we're going to build this from scratch. All right, so here I have a simple screen, and as you can see, this is 640 by 360, which is the exact same as the one over here. All right, so what happened is we have a couple of elements. We have the status bar at the top. We've got a navigation bar. And we also got, this is the navigation bar, both of these combined. And we have some elements, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we have a floating action button. And then we have a bottom navigation. All right. Now, when you are designing, one thing you need to know is constraints. So let's take a look at this one. Okay. So if I click on this element, and over here, you can see I've set constraint. Now, this is what developers do when they are coding the app. They set constraints to identify where the element is going to be placed, irrespective of the screen size. So here, I've set align to top, which means, for example, if my phone is bigger, all right, let's say it's bigger, that element is going to stay on the top itself. It is not going to change the position. The same thing over here. This is going to be fixed to the top. As you can see, I've set the constraint to top. This again is going to be constrained to the top. But this one is going to be constrained to the bottom because as the screen size increases, the element over here is going to stick to the bottom. It's not going to scale. It's just going to get stuck to the bottom. The same thing over here, which is for the floating action button. I've set it to right, which means in case I move this, if my screen size is wider, it's going to go ahead and stick to the right side. All right, so that's why I've set it to right and I've set it to bottom. It's going to fix itself to the right bottom. So when you are designing, you kind of want to take note of this. Let me just set this to 640 by 360 and it should be perfect. Now I've done the same thing for these elements as well. I've gone ahead and added constraints. So if I select this image, you can see I've assigned it to the right and the top. Okay, so what I want to do is I'm going to select this Nokia big, hold Alt and Option, and I'm going to bring it down like so. And I'm going to go ahead and just delete all this thing. I'm going to quickly change the color of this so we can see what's actually happening. I'm going to take this, I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to paste it over here. And I'm going to go ahead and align this to the top left. Now I want to see how this looks if I multiplied it by 3 times, which would basically mean it should exactly fit to this resolution, which is 1920 by 1080. So I'm going to press K on my keyboard, which is going to be the scale tool. So in Figma, you have the move tool and the scale tool. So what scale tool does, it basically scales proportionately. So let's check it out. So I'm going to click here and I'm going to hold I'm going to hold down Shift and I'm going to scale this as much as I can. All right. It's scaling and scaling. And automatically, as you can see, it's become 1920 by 1080. Now here is the fun part. Now this element, which was basically the floating action button, is 168 by 168, all right? This element was 56 by 56. So let's go ahead and let's clear this up and say 56 into 3 gives me 168, which is fantastic, which is exactly what we need. Basically, it's gone ahead and scaled it by 3 times, all right? And the same thing over here, this is 168 height, and as you can see, this is also 56, which was 56 initially, and now 168. We can also check that for the text as well. So this was 20 pixels, all right? And now, if I come over here, it is 60 pixels because we have multiplied it by 3, which is 20 into 3 is 60. Perfect. So this looks pretty fine, right? Now, let's take another example. Let's take like a big one. I'm going to delete the Samsung. So here we have Samsung Note 10. Now, this is the resolution, which is quite huge, to be honest. As you can see, Nokia and Samsung are quite huge. So it is 1440 by 3040. All right. And I've gone ahead and brought that down to 360 by 720. 360 is obviously the width. The height is 760. This is the extra space that we have. All right. So for example, this is 640 by 360. So 640 is the height. And here is 760. And all right. And this is the extra height that we have. But we don't have to worry about that. Now, here is 498 ppi. Let's go ahead and check out in the chart. All right, so 480 to 640 is 4x. So the asset will be exported at 4x. All right, cool. So let's check it out. So as you can see, I've mentioned 4x and the ratio is 19:9. We don't have to bother too much about that. All right, so I'm gonna come over here, hold Alt and Option and drag that down. Okay. All right, I'm going to delete this and I'm going to come over here. I'm going to copy this. All right. And I'm going to come back to this one, Samsung, and I'm going to paste it inside and put it on the left and the top. Let's go ahead and quickly change the color so we can see what's happening. Perfect. So now we need to multiply this by 4. All right. So press K and let's scale this. All right. There we go. And perfect. All right, so as you can see, the width has become 1440. Let's take it quickly. So let's quickly see if we did it right. So this is 56 by 56. So if I go and say 56 into 4, that gives me 224 pixels. So basically, this floating button should be 224 pixels, which is basically exactly what we wanted, which is 224. Perfect. But now what about this extra space? I mean, isn't this wrong? Well, that's where constraints come into place. So what's going to happen is because this bottom navigation bar was constrained to the bottom, the phone or the device on which you're viewing it is automatically going to push this to the bottom. So if I go ahead and select the artboard and I'm just going to scale this up. Sorry, not scale. I'm just going to, press V to come back to the move tool and I'm going to make this bigger. What's going to happen is this is going to get fixed to the bottom, but these extra elements are going to be visible. So basically, as you can see, I can see 4 items over here: new, clothes, shoes, and accessories. But here I can see 5 items because the screen is bigger. But everything else remains in the same proportion. So this was 56 before, and now it is 224, which is fantastic. All right, so before we move on to the other 3 devices, let me quickly explain concept of pixels and DP. So DP stands for density independent pixels. Now, let's take a look at this example, all right? Now, I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna copy this. All right, let me quickly change the font of this to Roboto. All right, I'm gonna copy this and I'm gonna paste it over here, okay? Now, this is 360 pixels, which means 360 dp, all right, on this device. But on this resolution, which is quite big, the dp is going to stay the same, but the pixel is going to be different. So ideally, when you are communicating with the developer, you need to ensure that this is how it is displayed. So select this, I'm gonna say at 3x, all right? So 1080 pixels is 360 dp at 3x, which is 360 into 3. Here, let's quickly change the font of this again. 720 pixels is equal to 360 dp, all right, at 2x, all right? This is how you want to communicate. This is 360 dp at 1x, all right? All right, so this is how it's going to be. So that is dp versus px. The same concept applies for Apple phones as well. So you want to make sure that you are using the same principles when designing for iPhones. We're going to take a look at iPhones here as well, but let's just finish up with Android. All right, so let's go ahead and take another example, which is this. All right, so this is 720, which is Redmi 8. This is 270 ppi, sorry, not 720. So 270 falls under 240 to 320, which is 2x, all right, which is perfect. Over here, okay. So the resolution is 720 by 1520. So I've shrunk that down to 360 by 760, and this is the extra space that we have, right? Because this was supposed to be 640. Oh, I think I didn't do it right. So 760, yeah, okay, these are the same. So this is 2x and this is 4x. So the ratio stays the same, which is perfectly fine. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and delete this. I'm gonna delete the ones over here as well. Right? Actually, I'm going to keep the OnePlus ones over here, and I'm going to delete the Pixel, right? So let's go ahead and duplicate the Redmi, all right? Let's select these two and hit delete, all right? And let's copy this, Control C, and I'm going to paste it over here. Put it to the top left. I'm going to quickly change the color so we can see what's going on, all right? And I'm going to click on this and I'm press K on my keyboard, and let's go ahead and scale this up, all right? So hold down Shift, and I'm going to scale it, which is perfect. All right, now let's compare. So the floating action button was 56 pixels, and this should be 56 into 2, which is 112. So 56 into 2 is equal to 112, which is perfect. But what about this extra space? Doesn't matter. The phone is automatically going to go ahead, select, let's actually select that frame, all right? And it's going to scale it up automatically by pushing the bottom elements down, and this is going to be stuck to the bottom. Fantastic. Now the same thing happens over here on OnePlus phones as well. And OnePlus is quite big, to be honest. You can see we've got this whole section visible, but here even on the Samsung Galaxy S10, it isn't full visible. All right. So OnePlus is quite a large phone, and it's true because you can see over here that the resolution is 9 by 19, but here it is, sorry, the aspect ratio is 9 by 19, but here it is 9 by 19.5. So you have more height, all right? Now let's take a look at the Pixel phones, all right? Same thing applies over here. So 537 ppi, which is quite huge, which is quite massive, all right? So, and that falls under 480 to 640, which is 4x, right? There you go. So we have this over here. So let's quickly go ahead, take a look at this. Let's duplicate that. Let's delete this content. Let's copy the first one that we created and then paste it over here. And all right, let's quickly change the color so we can see what's going on. All right, and now we can select this and press K, and now we can scale it. All right, so scale and scale and scale. Fantastic. There you go. So this is again 224, which is supposed to be the same as the Samsung Galaxy S10 because they have the same 4x number. All right, as you can see, 4x over here and 4x over here. All right, and so 224, which is perfect, and 224, which is perfect. Now, the only thing the phone is going to do, it's automatically going to increase the height automatically for you. And so more content is shown. That is how it works. So one last concept is, for example, when we are exporting assets to give to the developer, what you want to do is, let's say we take this phone, all right? All right, let's come over here. So here you can see we have an icon. All right, we have a couple of icons and we have images. All right, now if you are exporting icons, you want to export them as SVG format because these are scalable vector graphics, which means that if you just give them this one asset, which is 18 by 12 pixels, the device is automatically going to do it and it will not pixelate because these are SVGs, these are vector based. All right. But for other instances, like let's say these images, all right, now this is 100 by 163, all right? Now you want to export these at all the 4 or 5 ratios that we have. So MDPI is 1. So basically so 100 by 163 would be 1. You want to export the same asset at 2x, 3x, and 4x also. So what's going to happen is the developer is going to take all these 4 different assets, all right, and he's going to put them in the code. And when you see it on a particular device, that device is going to pick the appropriate image size. So for example, in the code for this app, when I view it on Nokia is going to pick up the 2x image size because the 3x image size, all right? Over here on the Samsung, it's going to pick up the 4x image size. It does have the 1x, 2x, and the 3x assets, but it's going to pick up the 4 and show the 4th one because that is what is needed to make sure that it looks perfect on a big device. If you take the Redmi, this is going to pick up the 2x image size. So ideally, you want to export each of these. If I want to quickly show you how this is done, I can click on export, and let's say I want to export as a PNG. All right. So I can export these at as many different sizes I want. All right, and I can give these to the developer and he's going to take all these assets and put them into the code. Now we also have a couple of other ones, which is 3.5, 2.6, but these are kind of like outdated ones and ones which nobody's using. And TV and HIDPI is for Android watches and Android TV and stuff. So we don't have to worry about that. The only thing we need to know is 1, 2, 3, and 4. Maybe there's a device that's going to come out in the future with 4x HDPI, which is going to need 5 times the size of the assets. So basically this is how it's built. So bottom line is you always want to start with 640 by 360 and then move your way forward. All right, that's pretty much it. All right, so up next we can go to iPhone and see how the whole thing works for iPhones. It is a bit different, but the principles are quite the same. So let's get started. We start off with the same principle. So on Android, we started with the smallest screen size, which is 640 by 360. We're going to do the same thing for the iPhone, and that is the iPhone 8. But you might be wondering, what about the previous ones? Aren't those smaller? iPhone 7, iPhone 6, aren't those smaller? Aren't we supposed to be starting with that? Well, ideally, iPhone 8, iPhone 6, and iPhone 7 all have the same screen sizes. So there is this website which has the ultimate guide to iPhone resolutions, and this gets updated on a regular basis every time a new phone is out. So as you can see, you've got iPhone 11 Pro Max. So if you look over here, iPhone 8, iPhone 7, iPhone 6s, and iPhone 6 are, the ones which have the smallest screen size. But what about the 5, 4, 2GS? Well, honestly, nobody uses these anymore. So if you are an if you are an iPhone user, there is a 99.99% chance that you don't use these. You either have an iPhone 6 and above. Cool. So as you can see over here, the screen size, the smallest size is 375 by 667. So if I come over here, which is 375 by 667, which is again in a 19 by 6 aspect ratio. All right, perfect. So let's go on to the next one. So we've got iPhone 8. Let's take a look at the iPhone 8 actually, to be honest. All right. So this is the iPhone 8, and the resolution, as you can see over here, is 750 by 1134, which is 750 by 1134. Now, if I bring that down to 375, and by 667, basically it's 2x. and the pixels per inch is 326. Let's actually compare this over here. So 326 is very close to 320, so it is around 2x. Now this is specifically for Android, but kind of the same thing works for iPhones as well. So I'm just saying it so you guys can get a better understanding. All right, so 9:16 ratio stays the same. The thing with the iPhone 8 is you just have to multiply it by 2, which is 2x, and it should work. So let's go ahead and quickly delete this and check it out. So this is a screen, okay, and all the constraints are very well done as well. As you can see, the constraints are pretty neat. All right, and 375 by 667. All right, let's go ahead and duplicate this and select this and delete. I'm going to copy this feed, copy and paste, and I'm going to move this to the top. All right. The first thing I want to do is this. I want to change the font because the font will not scale because I'm on Windows and I don't have the San Francisco font. So for right now, I'm just going to choose Roboto. Okay, so I went ahead and changed everything to Roboto. So now it should look fine. Let's change this also to Roboto and also this to Roboto because I don't have the SF fonts over here. So anyway, so I'm going to copy this. I'm going to come over here. Let's delete the one. We don't want this. All right. And I'm going to paste it. Okay, now let's press K to get my scale tool, and now let's scale this up big time, and as you can see, it perfectly sits. It's fine. Let's just verify. So we've got the circle, which is around 28 by 28, and if you multiply by 2, it's going to be 56 by 56. Perfect. So iPhone 8 is set. Let's go to the next one. Let's go to the iPhone 10. All right. So the iPhone 10 is same as the iPhone 8, but it's just longer. So 375 by 375, and instead of 667, it is 812. Now, ideally, if you want, you can actually start designing the screen on the iPhone 10 or even the iPhone 8 because the only difference is the height. So because we would put up a constraint for the bottom navigation, it wouldn't really matter. So you can start for the iPhone 8 or the iPhone 10 itself. Okay, so let's go ahead and duplicate this. All right. Oh, I already did do it. So I'm going to go ahead and just duplicate this. All right. I'm going to go ahead and delete this. And as you can see, this comes up to 458 PPI, and 458 PPI comes from 320 to 480. So 458 comes between over here, which is why we have 3x. Okay. So let's go ahead and we're going to copy this and we're going to paste it over here. All right, we're going to press K and let's scale this up. All right, now we have a problem, which means that we want this extra space. So the only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select the feed and then just go ahead and bring this down and it should be fine. All right. So I forgot to change the font of this and the font of all this, but you basically get the idea. It's same as the one on Android. All right. Oh, I forgot to change this as well. Anyway. All right. So this is how it's going to look on an iPhone 10, and this is how it's going to look on an iPhone 8, which is fine. All right, so there is one more thing that I want to talk about, and as you can see over here, we just went ahead and took the iPhone 8 design and we scaled it up 3x, right? But in reality, the iPhone 10 has a notch, it has a home indicator at the bottom. So how would that look? How would it work? Well, it's pretty much the same thing. So I'm going to go ahead and just make a duplicate of this, and I've come down over here and I've already made the iPhone 10 version of it, and it's basically not anything different. It's pretty simple. So the only difference is that the status bar here, let me just hide this for now. All right, or we can just hide this. So basically the only difference is the top bar that we have, which is the status bar over here, is a bit bigger than the one we have on the iPhone 8 one. So what's going to happen is the developer is automatically going to go ahead and push this a bit down, push this section a bit down to give more space for the iPhone 10. And also over here, he's going to add in the home indicator, which the device is automatically going to do. So the bottom nav bar, as you can see here, is going to go up a bit slightly. All right, that's it. There's nothing much else to it. It's pretty straightforward. And as a result of that, as you can see here, the whole card, this blue card is visible, but here only a part of it is. So it really isn't anything different. is pretty much the same thing. So I just wanted to point that out in case any of you guys would get confused with it. All right, now comes the next one, which is a bit tough, which is the iPhone 8 Plus. Not only is the height different, the width is also different. So let me explain. First of all, I think I just want to make sure that this is the right aspect ratio. So let me quickly go and search for the iPhone 8 Plus. Let's check the aspect ratio. Yeah, 16:9, which is fine, which is perfect, which is okay. iPhone 8 Plus, 401 ppi, which is fine. Yeah, cool. So if you look at the guidelines over here, so basically what Apple recommends is for the iPhone 6 Plus, 6s Plus, 7 Plus, and 8 Plus, you want to start with a different sized artboard, all right, which is 404 by 736, all right? And it tells you, this is only for the iPhone 8, and then it tells you to scale it up to 3x, which gives us this, but downscale it again by 1.5 by 1.15 to 1920 by 1080, because the resolution of the phone, if I show you over here, the resolution of the phone is 1920 by 1080, and over here the resolution is actually 1920 by 1080. All right, this is the actual size of the phone, but when you export it at 3 times from a different artboard size, which is 414 by 736, it's going to scale up to 1242 by 2208, which is this one. All right, so basically all the assets would have to be exported at 3x, and then the phone, which is the iPhone 8 Plus, the phone itself is going to downscale it to match this. All right, so basically what you want to do is you still want to ignore this. You want to go ahead and design it for this one, sorry, the iPhone 8. All right, now let me just show you how this works for the iPhone 8 and the iPhone 8 Plus base models. All right, go ahead and then just delete these two. Okay, I'm going to copy this, put this over here. All right, so this is the normal iPhone 8. Now I'm going to bring this one, which is the iPhone 8, which is 414 by 736. All right, I'm going to duplicate that and I'm going to bring that over here. I'm going to go ahead and delete all this. We don't need all this. I'm going to copy this, all right, and I'm going to paste it over here. Okay, so we have this extra space, all right. Now I'm going to go ahead and just move this over to the right and move this to the bottom. That's it. It's as simple as doing that. So even if you just design it for the iPhone, let me just go ahead and call this iPhone 8. Even if I just design it for the iPhone 8, it's going to work for the iPhone 8 Plus as S Plus as well, because this element which was constrained to the right is going to be moved to the right by the phone. This is going to happen by the phone, and the developer is going to have to code that. He's going to add in that constraint. Same thing for the bottom as well. So ideally you can just design for the iPhone 8, export it at 3x, so each element gets exported at 3x, and then it's going to be downscaled by 1.15, as you can see over here. So basically bottom line is just go ahead and design for the iPhone 8. It's going to work for the iPhone 8 Plus devices as well. So it's as simple as that. All right, so the last one is, let's take a look at the other ones. So for the iPhone 10, 11 Pro and 10s, it's the same thing, 375 by 812, which is this one that we took a look at. The next one is the iPhone 11 and the iPhone XR. Same thing over here. So as you can see, it is 404 by 736, but it's 404 by 896. The height is longer. But as I mentioned before, we can obviously design for the iPhone 8, and it's going to expand it to take up from 375 to 414. It's going to take that extra space and move the elements accordingly. And the height is automatically going to get changed because of the height. So the nav bar is automatically going to come to the bottom, and it's going to show more of the content. All right. And so for the iPhone 11 and the iPhone XR, you have to export the assets at 2x, which is 828, which gives you 828 by 1792, which is just 2x. And for the 11 Pro Max and the XS Max, it is 3x. All right. So basically for the iPhone 11 Pro Max, my God. All right. So the height is quite big, and it's got a pretty high DPI, which is 458, and it's going to look something like this. All right. So basically, if I take this over here, this was moved out a little bit like so. So to match 414, right? Yeah. And 896, I'm just this to 896. All right. And all right. So now if I go ahead, let's actually delete this. Let's bring this down again. And we can go ahead and delete this. I'm going to copy this, paste it over here inside. All right. And now this should be exported at 3x. As you can see over here, render at 3x. All right. I'm going to leave a link down below in the description for this link so you can check it out. And I'm going to press K and I'm going to scale this up, and then it perfectly fits. All right. So that's basically the difference between Android and iPhones. That's how everything works when you're designing interfaces, when you're designing apps. I'll leave a link down in the description for this Figma file where you can, just hop in and you can check out everything in case you want to come back and refer anything. So the link will be in the description. Now there's also another website by Material Design. Now this is quite outdated, like this is like really outdated, but it does help you understand a bit better as well again. So you've got the density, which is the, the number I was talking about, the 1.5, 2, 3, and all those things. So for example, let's actually search for a Samsung phone. So let's Samsung, let's say S8 Plus, all right? So it's got XXX HDPI, 1440 by 2960, and so this is the smallest screen size, the aspect ratio, and all the other details that you need. So this will not be useful, but it will help you understand how it works in UI design. Alright, so that's pretty much it for this video, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys really enjoyed it. If you did, let me know in the comment section down below. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more amazing, awesome content. And I'll see you guys in my next video. So till then, take care and bye-bye.